Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga, the Black and White arc, where previously, thanks to the director she was previously working for, White was invited to talk to the mayor of Nimbasa City about something to draw people in, because, tourism is the thing that gets a lot of capital to your city. And White's idea? A Pokemon musical, something to get people regularly showing up from time to time. That's something that the mayor loves deeply. While Black explores the past, facing off with the gym leader Lenora in her museum, and it's only when he understands where some of Lenora's Pokemon originated from that he's able to overcome them and get his basic badge. That's not a diss to the badge, that's what it's called. But afterwards, Lenora gets a call from the gym leader Clay, who's discovered some ancient artifact known as the Black Orb that's emanating this odd power, and he needs Lenora to come over and take a look. Unbeknownst to them, they're being spied on by the Shadow Triad of Team Plasma. While Lenora's away, there's a heist at the museum by also Team Plasma, but more specifically, one of the 7 sages, Gorm. Black manages to beat back Gorm and his Team Plasma grunts and retrieve the stolen fossils and artifacts. But Team Plasma is making more and more moves, and Black was helped out by Berg, and overhearing something that Gorm had said about their leader being empowered by a dragon, something along those lines, he worries what the future might hold as Team Plasma continues to make more and more trouble for our heroes. What'll happen next? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, who's this Pokemon for this chapter? Trubbish and Cincino, and this is adventure number 16, a direct attack and a daunting defense. Oh, it's one of the Swords of Justice. The narration says, having solved the mystery of the missing fossil, Black and White continue on their way. Now they have almost reached the end of Pinwheel Forest, and we see, unbeknownst to Black and White, they're being observed by one of the Swords of Justice, the legendary Virizion? White says, you just have to go through this tunnel to get to Sky Arrow Ridge. Black gets excited saying, finally, I can't wait to see the biggest bridge in all of Unova. But suddenly, the wind starts to whip up behind them. They look around, Black saying, whoa, what a strong wind. And suddenly something comes blowing past them. And in the wind, Black catches a faint sight of Virizion. Makes me think of Verizon, the cell phone. Oh geez. They end up covered in leaves and dirt. And at first they seem okay. As White starts to pat herself off, she says that was quite a whirlwind. While Black's still stunned by what he thinks he saw. But then they're shocked as they look down at their clothes as they end up being ripped and torn to pieces in an instant. Like, Javis. And it's a good thing this is a modest comic. We don't need to be seeing none of that, especially on teenagers. But White looks at her tattered clothes saying, Did the wind do that? The Black looks towards the sky and it says, I thought I saw something run past. Was it a Pokemon? Musha, I want to remember that blur I saw more clearly. I need your help, as he brings out his Muna Pokeball. But White says, wait, not now. Have you forgotten we're in a hurry? I want to buy a change of clothes too. Come on, let's go. And she pushes him forward. Ooh. And they end up arriving just outside of the bridge. Cool. Kind of like New York. No duh. I said all that, but still. Black says, oh, look. This bridge is for vehicles too. Yeah, you don't really actually see too many vehicles in the Pokemon world. White questions, why go through to the trouble of walking over if we can ride? Black says, it's a good workout. Come out, Tula. And he brings out his Galvantula. Still love saying that. I will admit, if Galvantula does something really cool in the future, it might end up being one of my more favorite Pokemon of this region. Blackton says, my dream is to win the Pokemon League, so I have to train myself as well as my Pokemon. But White pouts saying, well, my dream isn't to win the Pokemon League. Mumble grumble. Black says, come on, let's go. Well, White just pouts even more. They make their way over the walking part of the bridge up top. Black peeks over, saying, "This bridge sure is huge. I can't even see the other end." White starts patting him down a little bit more, getting the leaves off of him, saying, "Black, you're covered with mud and leaves. Why don't you dust yourself off?" Black says, "Oh, whoops." And then he starts shaking and dusting himself off even more. Then something moves past him. No, in front of him, and comes slamming down before him. Says, "Whoa, a mop? It's some kind of janitor?" Oh, is he mad because he's making a mess? The janitor has, well, we just heard their names, Trubus and Cincino. Black says, "What are you doing?" The janitor says, "What do you mean, what am I doing? Can't you tell? I'm tidying up. I'm cleaning the bridge. And you tracked mud all over the walkway and scattered leaves everywhere." Okay, this is very much not like New York. "After all my hard work making this bridge shine." He points down the way with the sparkling bridge. Black says, "Hold on, I can explain. We got caught up in a huge whirlwind right before we went through the gate to the bridge. That's when the mud and leaves got all over me." The janitor says, "Really?" Black says, "Yes, really. The wind was so strong it tore my clothes. See for yourself." The janitor looks towards Black's clothes, but then pauses and then says, "I don't believe you. No, I think you're messing with him, old man. There's no way you could see the state his clothes are in and be like, that's normal. Unless you're one of those guys who are like, oh, the kids these days wearing their ripped up clothes, calling it fashion." Black says, "What?" The janitor says, "If you want me to trust you, fight a Pokemon battle with me." White shouts, "What does a battle have to do with believing our story?" Honestly, that just seems to be the way this goes. Like, time and time again, over and over again. There's been so many situations where someone's not believed Black and he had to battle or bring out his Pokemon in order to prove his innocence. The janitor says, "Men build trust through athleticism." Oh god. Toxic masculinity. Black then looks to the janitor's Pokemon, saying, "Trubbish and Cincino. All right, I'm trying to win the Pokemon League. Bring it on." Well, White is just in shock, saying, "I don't understand, guys, not at all." The janitor says, "Ha ha ha, this is just the way we roll. My name is Janitor Joss." Or Goss? Joss. I'll go with Joss. "I've been slinging this mop for 30 years, and now I'm gonna mop the floor with ya." Black brings out Muna in order to have it fight alongside Galvantula for a double battle. Black says, "I choose Musha and Tula," but his Muna gets a whiff of Garbodor and just just bails out and heads back in his Pokeball. Like, my god. Black shouts, "Come out of there." Well, White says, "Maybe Musha can't handle Trubbish's smell." Black looks to his Muna, saying, "Is that right?" And Muna gives a nod. Joff says, "What now, my young friend? This is a double battle. You have to use 2 of your Pokemon. Mine are Trubbish and Cincino. But if you don't hurry up and choose your second Pokemon, I'll consider this my victory." Black says, "Fine, Tula and Tep." And as he sends out Tepig, Tepig also gets a whiff of Trubbish and just heals back like, "Whoa, buddy, what did you bring me out to?" Oh, man. White says, "Yeah, it's not just the Pokemon who have to endure this stink, you know. As a matter of fact, Tepig has a much bigger snout. It must be even harder for it." Josh says, "Looks like you can't use your Pokemon, let alone get close to me. I might as well attack then." And he has Trubbish use Acid Spray. Black comes over to the down Tepig, saying, "I've got to find a way to overcome this. How's Tula doing?" But while Galvantula fires off electrical attacks, Cincino's fur manages to just cut right through it. Black checks out his Pokedex, saying the electricity is deflecting around Cincino. Impossible. But Cincino's Pokedex entry reads, "Cincino, the Scarf Pokemon. Their white fur is coated in a special oil that makes it easy for them to deflect attacks." Black says, "So the Cincino can ward off attacks with his fur?" Joss takes a swing that slides right off of Cincino's silky mane. I'm so jealous. saying exactly. As you can see, even my hand slips away if I try to smack it. To top it off, my Cincino's so well trained that it can ward off special moves like your electric attack. Black says, Tula, put everything you've got into this attack. And as Galvantula fires, it just kinda bounces off again. Joff has to move aside so not to be hit. Oh, it does scorch the bridge a little. And as Joff mops it up, he says, don't expect any of those electric moves to work against my Cincino's fur. No matter how powerful the bolts of electricity shooting out, they'll only ricochet away. Black says, this guy is good. Who would have thought the more challenging battle he'd have would be against a janitor? White looks to the janitor's Pokemon saying, Pokemon that looks like a trash bag. The Pokemon with a silky scarf. I had no idea why you were using Pokemon who were such opposites. Now I see there was a strategy behind your choices. The janitor smiles, saying, in my profession, these two are invaluable. Obviously, Trubbish is useful because it's the trash bag Pokemon. And Cincino helped me sweep the floor with its tail back when it was still a Minchino. Ah, the memories. Anyway, your opponents can't even get close to you, let alone attack, so let's finish them off. As he sends in Trubbish and Cincino, he has Trubbish use Acid Spray on Tepig, and has Cincino use Tail Slap on Galvantula. Tepig ends up in the trash while Galvantula slumps against the fence. Joff smiles, saying, looks like it's all over. But Black declares, not yet, as an enraged Tepig comes bursting out of the trash can. Dang, that's a heck of a panel. Sizzling and glaring. Joff says, huh? As Tepig comes racing forward. Oh, I was about to say, did it find a way to plug its nose? And it comes ramming into Trubbish. Joff is perplexing. What the? That Tepig couldn't even get near Trubbish before. What orders did you give it? Black says, I told Tep to pretend to fall into that heap of trash after your attack. Then rummage through it until it found something to plug its nose. That's so silly looking. Just 2 water bottles just shoved in his nasal cavity. Just, oh my god. Joss says, I see. Now it's 1-on-1. Black says, I wouldn't be too sure about that. My tool isn't down for the count yet. As Galvantula comes springing off of the fence, leaping into the air, or skittering, Joss says, it's flying? No. It anchored its web to the tip of the bridge's pole, and it's swinging by its thread. No matter wherever you attack from, you'll never be able to vanquish my Cincino with electric-type moves. Black says electric-type moves aren't the only ones Tula can do, and he has Galvantula go in, pick up Cincino, carrying it up into the air. Black says, good, keep swinging. Is it seismic toss? And as Galvantula swings around the bridge on its web, and then rams Cincino, I think, into a wall? Regardless, Galvantula launches Cincino. White says, the scarf! Cincino's exposed. Black says, now, and has Galvantula use Slash, striking at Cincino's exposed belly. With his 2 Pokemon fallen, Josh says, I lose. Black says, thank you for battling me on this bridge. I would never have won if I hadn't been able to use the bridge struts. Josh says, you did very well. I had a hunch you were a skilled trainer. Black says, I knew it. But White crushes this, saying, a hunch? I thought he challenged you because you messed up his bridge. Black says, you're mistaken, boss. Even when Janitor Joff was mad about the footprints and leaves, his eyes were on the rips and tears on my clothes. Oh man, I love him looking through the little rip in his hat, saying, don't you get it? The source of that whirlwind. Josh says, when you said it happened near Pinwheel Forest and that it tore your clothes, it rang a bell. No doubt it was caused by Verizon. I want to say Verizon, a legendary Pokemon. I looked it up, it's Verizon, which it's not beating the Verizon allegations. Verizon, a legendary Pokemon. Black and White are listening intently, but then Josh says, that's all I know, which takes them off guard. Josh says, anyhow, if a great Pokemon like that came in contact with you, then you must be a fine trainer. That's why I wanted to battle with you. You don't think I'm just an ordinary janitor, do you? Oh, what? They say no. Josh pulls out a business card that reads Cassilia City Battle Company President Joff. Battle Company. And he says, "This is my true identity." Black says, the president of Battle Company? Black says, "His company is really famous, boss. It develops items that help trainers fight Pokemon battles." Ooh. Joff starts embracing it, saying, "I just love tidying and cleaning, and I've gotten in the habit of keeping an eye out for young trainers while I indulge my hobby." White presents her own business card saying, "Well, I'm with the BW agency, a talent agency for Pokemon, and oh, there they are, the skyscrapers of Castelia City. Amazing. Thanks to you, I got a chance to promote my company to a big shot," she tells Black. "Walking over this bridge was a fantastic idea. Well, I made a reservation for a massage for Gigi. I'll have to take her there as soon as we get to the city. Why don't we go for a stroll while you wait for us?" Black says, "Huh?" White then says, "Oh, we've got to buy some Castelia cones. Oh, I hope we don't have to wait in line." Black says, "Hey, boss." White says, "Oh, but first let's buy new outfits. There's so much to do." Oh, God, she's getting too excited. Oh, man, Galvantula's up to 40. Jeez. All right, the Who's That Pokemon is Zorua, of all people. I'm surprised to be seeing it this early on. But it's adventure number 17, Lost in the Big City. And sure enough, there's Black in the big city, looking around saying, "What a huge city, Tap. So many people and so many tall buildings. Wow, few too many, huh? Getting dizzy. So many. Let's not get to the building and get away from the crowd." But as he enters and sits in the lobby, he sees a boy who seems to be crying, saying, "Huh? That boy seems lost. Looks like nobody else noticed. And are city people really as cold as they say?" "Yes." He calls out to the boy saying, "Hey there, what's wrong?" The boy comes over, and Black says, "Did you lose your parents?" No response. "What's your name?" No response. "Where do you live?" No response. "What are you doing?" No response. Black says, "This is going nowhere fast. There must be somebody around here who helps lost children. I'll look for the building staff. Tep, keep an eye on him for me, okay?" But as Tepig and the boy... Oh, no. Tepig pats his chest. Tep and the boy lock eyes, only for the boy to start to shift his eyes into a very mischievous sneer. Tepig is shocked as the boy transforms into Zora. Tepig is in shock as Zora races behind and shoves Tepig's tail into his nose. Zora chuckles, and Tepig comes racing after him. Zora then transforms into a young gentleman, flipping into the crowd in the elevator. When Tepig goes in, he just looks around confused. The elevator attendant saying, "Going up?" As the elevator moves up and hits the top floor, Zora transforms back, causing even more havoc. Oh, game development department. Nice. You hit the Game Freak headquarters. The people inside are shocked, saying, "Huh? What? What's going on?" As Tepig and Zora come bouncing all over the place, causing havoc. One says, "I'm the digital art. The digital art I'm designing." Another says, "The background music I'm composing." While the last one says, "The quest I'm programming." They enter into the stairwell, Zoro racing down and Tepig lagging one floor behind. The Tepig decides to jump onto the railing and hears the footsteps. Tepig goes leaping down to the preceding floor, cutting off another Tepig. A female one to boot. Tepig looks around the female Tepig and grows excited and goes in for a hug, only for the disguised Zora to sneer and then kick away Tepig, sending it falling down the stairs. Man, Tepig, you found your arch enemy. Tepig glares at the transforming Zora at the top of the stairs, transforming back into its normal form. Zora goes racing in and starts swiping at Tepig intensely. The Tepig stands its ground and lights up its tail, shooting off a powerful ember attack at Zora. Meanwhile, as Zora dodges another blast, Black and office worker come into the stairwell. Black saying, "Huh? Where'd Tep and that lost boy go?" Only for Black to be hit in the crossfire, frying his buns. Black says, "What are you doing, Tep? Where's that boy you're supposed to be keeping an eye on?" While the office lady says, "Oh, little boy, where are you?" Only for Tepig to notice the Zoroa chuckling as it saunters away, leaving Tep angry. The narration saying, "Mischievous Zoroa melts away into the crowd. Be warned. If you should happen to see a strangely quiet child standing around, it might very well be Zoroa up to mischief." Man, Okay, then. That was interesting. See, that's a little bit more of a classic tale, kind of based on Japanese folklore of the mischievous fox spirit causing trickery. It's just interesting that it went after Tep specifically and not Black. Huh, I wonder why. I wonder if there's more to it than that. It's just interesting that they get to the city and all kinds of weird stuff just start happening to them. All right. Who's this Pokemon for this chapter is Leavanny. In adventure number 18, Big City Battles. Bright lights. Big city. And once again, speaking of which, Black, seeming even smaller in the city, says, so huge. He then slumps to the floor saying, I knew this was a big city, but this is incredible. Castelia City. Check it out, Tep. He brings out a map saying, there are 5 docks for ships to come and go. So many streets and skyscrapers, and this and that, and only for White to stumble upon him saying, must you always shout? Black looks up at her saying, hey, boss. White hands over. No, Black looks to the bags that White has with her, saying, you're quick today. Everything done? White says, I took Gigi for a massage, bought her new costumes, and some of Castelia City's famous Castelia cones, a productive day. And that's not all. I even drummed up some more business Yay! Black says, way to go. White explains, the manager of the massage shop said, the woman says, I thought she was adorable the moment I saw her, and she's a star. I'd love to have her in our ad. Black says, oh. White says, I'm going to need Tep too. Is that okay? Black says, sure, I guess. In the shoot, you have the 2 Pokemon being pampered and massaged. It's cute. As Black watches, he thinks, a photo shoot for a poster. I had no idea there were so many types of acting jobs. Yeah, it is true. The funny thing is, because of the college I went to, I actually learned how you get a lot of the photo shoots for food products. They'll put like cardboard and like some of the hamburgers and stuff to really fluff them up a little bit in order to give a bottle of certain kind of products a little bit of a certain kind of shine. Sometimes it'll be like cleaning products in it, a foamy head, there'll be actual soap. Most of what you see on commercials, or especially in those like glamour shots of the product, it's never real. You cannot eat that. What you see there, never eat that. You will never want to eat that. If you're saying, oh, my burger doesn't look like the picture, good. Because what they needed to do in order to make that burger look good for the picture makes it inedible. Black overhears 2 women talking, saying, so this is the famous male and female Tepig couple everyone's been talking about. That's right, the stars of BW Agency. I hear your other Pokemon are talented too. They're all actors. They can give you the exact expression and pose you asked for. Aww. Again, it's gonna be weird when Tepig evolves, especially because starter Pokemon are known for evolving fast. And then they show them a mock-up of the poster. And dude, this is literally exactly the kind of stuff I went to school for. Well, no, I went to school for animation, but I had to do a lot of graphic design stuff initially. And this is exactly it. The manager of the store shows White the mock-up saying, this is what the finished poster will look like. Wonderful. It's been a pleasure working with you. White gives a bow saying, thank you very much. And if you need anything else, just give me a buzz. And as Black and White take off, White is all smiles saying, tee Black. Black says, what's up, boss? White says, you've been working off your debt to me for the damage you did to the movie equipment in Accumula Town. And guess what? After this photo shoot, you'll have paid off half of what you owe. Oh. I thought she was going to say all of it, but only half. But, I mean, how long has it even been? Barely even a month? That's pretty good work. But, I mean, hey, Tep's been very popular. Black says, He picks up Tepig saying, wow, you've been working hard, Tep. You deserve a reward, but I don't have any. But White pulls out something saying, here, I've got a reward for Tep. Black sees it and says, Castelia cones? White says, Castelia cones heal status conditions like poison and paralysis during a Pokemon battle. Oh, delicious and practical. White hands them over saying, you can use them, right? Black says, you bet, thanks. He then says, boss, how come you spent all that time in line just to get these for us? White says, I'm glad you asked. I decided to support your dream. Oh, yeah, even Black's a little taken aback. As White says, to be honest, I didn't know what to think when I first heard you shouting, I'm going to the Pokemon League. But you've won gym battles and earned all those badges too. Pursue that dream. I respect that. I don't know anything about Pokemon battles, but if you're going to continue on your journey, there are lots of things you'll need on the way to help you, right? Black says, right. Pokeballs, potions, items to use in battle, not to mention feeding my Pokemon daily. And he starts looking at his wallet, and suddenly Pokemon has gotten a little too real. Black says, I'm willing to pay those expenses for you. Black says, really? It's the one thing that never really gets addressed that regularly. For most protagonists, I just always assume that their parents send them a little bit of money, or in other cases, they kind of stumble into good fortune, like with Diamond and Pearl hanging out with Platinum, who's loaded. But then you got all the kids who just kind of camped out and stuff. As we move to more modern day, that's a little less and less expected. Oh, she sees a branding opportunity. White says, in return, I'd like you to continue to help me with my work. And when you do appear in the Pokemon League, you'll wear our company logo. The hustle behind this girl. I love it. Yes, shill. Also remember to check out uncut versions on my Patreon. Speaking of shilling. White says, as your sponsor, BW Agency will help you achieve your dream. What do you say? Black gives a nod, and White shakes his hand, saying, I think we'll be a great team, and we can keep working together too, Tep. But as she looks at Tep, he's evolving. Oh, well, he's trembling. White says, what's wrong? Is it sick? Black says, no, this could be a sign that Tep is evolving. White says, evolving? You mean Tep is going to change shape? Black says, I don't know, but it's been fighting for quite a while now. If it's a Pokemon who evolves, that could be what's happening. White says, but Tep and Gigi look so cute together. They're so popular. Well, she thinks to herself this. They're getting offers for TV series, movies, commercials. But if Tep... and then she grabs Tep and starts swinging him around. Saying, no, me. Wait, what button was it to actually stop them from evolving? I never do that. I think I've only done it on accident to cancel out of an evolution. Hold on. Yeah, pressing the B button. This is actually, I think, the first. Oh no, it happened in the yellow arc. Oh, right, she didn't. Oh, it was mentioned, right. I'm like, but she didn't stop her Pokemon from evolving. Okay. So, Yellow had, at some point, stopped having certain Pokemon evolve, but it was mostly off screen. So, this is like the first time we've seen, in actuality, someone making a Pokemon not evolve. Because in the Yellow story arc, Blue says that you can do it with the Pokedex, but now you have like items and stuff that can halt evolution. It's just so hilarious seeing White just swinging, tapping around. Black saying, well, what are you doing? As he restrains her, White says, no, you mustn't evolve. I'll lose so much business if you change. Peppy's got that look like, whoa, lady. Black says, but suddenly there's some kind of alert on his cross transceiver. Just always have to kind of remember the name. Black says, White questions, an alarm? Black says, time for my gym battle. I made a reservation. The idea of reserving a gym battle, usually you just roll up in there. White says, in that case, take this with you. Black says, what is it? And she hands him some papers saying, I made a schedule for you. We cut over to the Legends of the Unova Region exhibition studio in Castelia. Oh, Berg is showing off some pieces to the... I don't know who this person is. The head of the studio? Well, the person says, Mr. Berg, this is wonderful. You certainly have pulled out of your slump. This will be a signature piece in Studio Castelia. Berg says, my trip to Nasserine City was an excellent source of inspiration. The man says, "Oh, you went to Nasserine City?" Berg says, "When I was but a budding artist, I borrowed a warehouse in Nasserine to use as a studio. I was surrounded by other artists who were bursting with creativity. We spurred each other on to create new work." That is art school. Honestly, I was never more at my most creative than when I was surrounded by other people who were also doing art. You'd see someone doing something and it just make you want to I can't just sit around doing nothing. I gotta draw, I gotta illustrate, I gotta animate. Miss those days. I actually felt like I could do something in the future. The man says, "So you went back to your roots, huh?" Berg says, "That's right." But then a voice calls out, "Berg! Oh snap, it's Iris! Iris! Iris, 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 Iris." The coolest little wild child. Though she's not really wild. She's always made me think of Nadia from Nadia and the Secret of Blue Water. Iris comes in riding on her. What is she riding? That's not Fracture. Okay. I know she usually has an Axew, but she has a Fracture and evolved with Axew. Interesting. He calls out, "A challenger has arrived for a gym battle. He has a reservation. You're the gym leader of Castelia City. You should be prepared." Only for Berg to say, "Hello, Iris. Visiting Castelia again? How do you like my new piece?" Iris says, "This one?" Berg says, "Go ahead, give me your honest, straightforward, charmingly unsophisticated opinion. Don't hold back." She's gonna say something terrible, a new one. Iris looks at it saying, "Are you losing your touch, Berg? This painting looks unpolished. It's like you force yourself to use a drawing technique that doesn't suit you. I prefer your cute pictures." Wow, that is so specific. Yeah, no, oh God, dang, Iris, that would cut me too. Like, man. Iris then points to something else, saying, "I like this painting better." Oh, Berg is just floored. All the other man says, "Mr. Berg, get a hold of yourself." "Oh, black lightning bolt and white flame, Reshiram and Zekrom? Huh, no wonder she's drawn to them." Iris says, "These paintings are based on Unova region legends, aren't they? These are good too." The man calls out, "Iris, Iris, he's going to fall into a slump again. Cheer him up quickly." Iris says, she thinks for us. Oh no, she sniffs at the air. And then sniffs Berg. Maybe she is a wild child. Saying, "But you smell awfully nice, Berg. Are you wearing a cologne scented with honey?" Berg immediately perks up, saying, "Not cologne, but I do smell like honey, Iris. I'm so pleased you notice." He dances with her, saying, "I created an incredible new architecture for my next gym challenger. Oops, that reminds me, my gym challenger awaits." He dashes out the door, saying, "I must away to the gym pronto. Toodles." Berg is so James coded. Just, oh man, I wish they did more with, I think this was the arc where, well, the storyline where Jesse and James got like serious. And that is such a shame because I feel like Berg and James would have resonated. Like, the flamboyant energy coming off of those two men being in the same place at the same time. Oh my God, it would be a sight to behold. Did they ever meet? Berg and James Pokémon. No, I don't think they ever did. If they did, there's nothing of the two of them being in the same place. That's a shame. I feel like they would have really clicked. Let me know if I'm maybe wrong about that. We cut to Berg dashing through the streets gracefully like a gazelle, saying, "I'm so looking forward to today's battle with this challenger," as he holds up 2 Pokeballs. Meanwhile, Black is right outside saying, "Berg, where have you been? It's way past my reservation time." Berg saunters up saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, so sorry." But Black pushes him into the gym saying, "Come on, hurry up. You'll be waiting for me at the end of the gym, and I have to find my way through this maze of honey. You designed to get to you. Is that right? Berg says, what the? I just built this maze and you've already figured out its purpose? You did your homework and fast. You are correct. I used my artistic talent to create this maze. In other words, I painted these walls with honey. Each wall is a work of art. Buddy, oh god, yeah. Though in Black 2 and White 2, it's like completely different, like cocoons and stuff. Balls of honey, that is really out there, buddy. Just Berg, man, I gotta tell you that I don't know. I don't know. That's a little bit much. I wonder what the reasoning behind changing it later became. Then again, he's an artist. Of course, he would change around the interior. That's just far out, so. Friggin' honey. This maze is my studio and my objet d'art as well as my gym. How do you like it? Surreal and avant-garde, don't you think, eh? Only for Black to just go racing in Leroy Jenkins style, bursting through the walls of honey. Berg saying, hey, take your time, savor my work. He appears to be in quite a hurry. As Black just keeps making his way through more and more. I think I like the way his gym is in Black 2 and White 2, because he has this section that isn't just like the top of this void almost. As Black has made his way through, he says, you have arrived. Allow me to introduce myself to you once again. I am Berg, the gym leader of Castelia City, otherwise known as the premier insect artist. Oh, I love his flamboyancy. It is something to behold. He sends out his Whirlipede. As Black thinks to himself, he's an expert on bug-type Pokemon. Tep is a fire-type Pokemon and Brave is a flying-type Pokemon, so they both have the advantage. He brandishes a Pokeball saying, go Tep! But, he stopped thinking of White saying, no, no, you mustn't evolve. So he halts himself and then brings out Braviary to fight. Berg says, my Whirlipede spins like a wheel to keep his opponents from reading its moves. Black says, yes, but, and he has Braviary unleash Air Slash, which instantly downs Whirlipede. Dang. Berg says, a flying type attack. That's its weakness. Well, you already knew I have a Whirlipede, so it's only natural for you to attack it with the most effective move. We each get to use 3 Pokemon. Can you guess what my other 2 will be? As he brings out a Dweeble, as Black says. Berg says, you guessed right. But now, can you guess which attack I'll use? Smackdown! And Dweeble does just that, really throwing Braviary off balance as it's nailed in the head by a rock. As Black calls out for Braviary, Berg says, I'm a bug-type Pokemon expert. I'm at a disadvantage against trainers who use flying-type and fire-type Pokemon. That's why I've developed special countermeasures. Smackdown is just one of them. Braviary then hits the ground all of a sudden. Black says Smackdown, that's a right-type attack, which is effective against flying-type and fire-type Pokemon. Berg says precisely, but there's another reason your Braviary fell. Black looks to Braviary and thinks, poison. Berg says exactly. Your Braviary was already hit with poison during the first battle when it clashed with my Whirlipede. Didn't you notice? Berg is a crafty one. I do love the moments where a gym leader is just like, you gotta be at a disadvantage, but I'm gonna make it hurt. And so Black brings out Galvantula. You know what? I always end up making an exception, and sure enough, it's taken a hot minute, but I must admit, I'm loving Galvantula. Galvantula has become one of my favorites, and I wasn't that into it before. I will admit I was not a Galvantula fan before, but you have won me over to your cause, Galvantula. You have shown me that I was mistaken. You are indeed one of my more favorite Pokemon, at least in terms of this region. Berg says, something's wrong. Better save Dweeble for my trump card. Instead, I'll bring out Leavanny. Didn't Ash have a Leavanny too? I think so. Hold on. Pokemon anime. Yep, Ash had a Leavanny. That's interesting. Cool. All right. And as Levani and Galvantula creep around each other, kind of squaring off, Black thinks to himself, concentrate. I've got to concentrate on this battle. Not noticing that Tepig still wants to engage. Meanwhile, White says as she's out on the streets, phew, the end of a long day's work. I wonder how Black is doing. Come to think of it, I've never seen Black's gym battles, and as his boss and sponsor, I ought to watch him. I wonder where the gym is. With her not noticing Bianca, who is also in the city, as they both say, this city is so big and crowded. As Bianca calls out, Black, where are you? In this street, that street? I've got a hunch she's over there. She's wandered down an alley. See, I know this is a very light series, but a young girl wandering down an alley is never a good thing. As Bianca says, but the street is so dark and empty. I don't want to walk down it alone. Yorn, you dummy. Why did you say the city is so big that we have to split up to find Black? Oh, I've got an idea. I have the perfect Pokemon for this situation. As she brings out her Litwick? Yeah, Litwick. Cool. My new Pokemon, cute little Litwick. What a great candle Pokemon. It's so much brighter now. Only for a voice to call out, nice Pokemon you've got there. Man, that is that voice calling out to you from the darkness. I'd immediately be like, pull out the gun, what? Bianca calls out, hello, who's there? Only for her to be immediately taken down by Among Us? Yeah, Among Us. There's a fungus among us. As the Team Plasma grunt takes away her Litwick, saying, Team Plasma, and we hereby liberate this Litwick from you. What a jerk! What an absolute tool! Oh dang. Wait, was Galvantula already level 41? I thought it was at 40 before. Or is it just leveling up fast? Dang. Friggin' Bianca getting her Pokemon stolen right from out of her under. And, I mean, I wasn't necessarily joking about the whole young girl traveling alone down a dark alley. That ain't cool. Something bad's bound to happen. I didn't expect her to just outright get her stuff yanked. I don't think it happens in the game as far as I can tell. Yeah. No, I don't think she ever has a Litwick in the game. Yeah, she ends up with a Chandelure. So she must have had a Litwick at some point. Okay. Alright, the Who's This Pokemon for the final chapter of this video and volume is Among Us. You can guess what I'm thinking of when I say that name. Sound it out in the comments below. You know what I'm thinking of, or I might have to report you. It's adventure number 19, the case of the missing Pokemon. Oh, we are reporting someone. It is Among Us. But as Berg and Black face off with their Levani and Galvantula respectively, Levani sends out some webbing while Galvantula sends out a electrified string. Galvantula misses Levani, but is trapped by Levani's sticky trap. Black calls out to Galvantula, while Berg says, oh, what a tangled web we weave. Silk thread versus electrified web. You're accustomed to attacking with Galvantula's silk, but now your opponent is using the same tactic. Was your Galvantula taken by surprise? Levani weaves clothes out of the leaves, using its sticky silk as a thread and the sharp edges on its arms as scissors. It's a silk specialist too, you know. Levani, your opponent is unable to move, so don't hit it too hard, please. Aw, he's so respectful. He has Levani use Leaf Blade, and thus... Oh, wait, what? It's not just Galvantula who falls, it's Levani too. Berg says, what just... How? Poison? And then he looks to Levani's head and sees a webbing attached, saying the silk. Your Galvantula infused its silk with poison. I didn't know you could do that with silk. Oh, teaching the bug expert something. Good stuff. Black says Tula is no match for Levani's super sticky silk. I couldn't do anything myself to unstick Tula from the ground, so I got you to attack Tula, even though that meant Tula might faint. I wanted to get back at you for what you did to Brave. Berg says, you made a sacrifice in hopes of a greater gain, eh? Very well then. He sends out Dweeble, as Black says, sorry to keep you back, Tep. I wasn't sure if I should use you. Partly because the boss doesn't want you to evolve, but... Oh, White has arrived. And she hears Black saying, mainly because I don't know what you'll be like after you evolve. Will your type and ability change too? How will I know what commands to give you? I'm worried about all those things, but... When White listens intently, Berg smiles. Black says, I can't fight well against a formidable opponent like Berg if I don't go all out. That would make him smile. And ever since I met you, you've shown me how tough you are. So I trust you. We've each got one Pokemon left. Go, Tap. And he sends out Tepig. Berg says, you think you've still got a chance? I haven't even used my trump card yet. He has Dweeble use Smackdown. Oh, but Tepig actually managed to avoid the attack. Berg says it's fast, but Black tells Tepig to use Ember, but just as Tepig's about to launch his attack, Berg says the moment you launch your attack is my big opportunity, as Tepig is hit by another rock. Jeez. Another takedown move. Yeah, both White and Gigi react intensely as Tepig struggles to stay on his feet. Black growls in anger while Berg smiles, saying, 1 or 2 more throws and it'll be all over. Ooh, another takedown. Hits Tepig. Berg calls out victory, while White says he lost. And as Black grits its teeth, it's in that moment Tepig evolves into, what is it? Pignite? Yep, Pignite! Smashing through the takedown rock in an instant, much to the shock of Berg, the joy of Black, and the astonishment of White and Gigi. And in that same instant, Dweeble is taken out too. Black says, hooray! White says, questions, you actually won? Leaving Black in shock, saying, boss, what are you doing here? Berg says, oh dear, my Dweeble fainted. I hate to concede defeat, but I must. He hands over the insect badge, saying, here is proof of your victory, the insect badge. Black pins the badge to his jacket, saying, so your new form is Pignite. The Pokedex reads, Pignite, the fire pig Pokemon. Whatever it eats becomes fuel for the flame in its stomach. When it is angered, the intensity of the flame increases. Black says, you look really strong. Oh, but both Black and Pignite look to White, who does not respond. Black takes off his hat, saying, boss, But Iris comes running in, saying, Berg, we've got trouble. I found a girl unconscious in the street. Berg says, Iris, you... What? She calls out Fracture, over here. And she sets down Bianca. Black says, Bianca? It's Bianca. Well, I think White says that too. Berg says, huh? You know her, Black? Black goes over to the unconscious Bianca, saying, we're childhood friends. Are you okay, Bianca? Meanwhile, Pignite seems to be allergic to something. Iris tells Berg, I found her passed out on the narrow street. Berg questions, what happened? Why did she faint? Iris says, isn't it obvious? Look, she's holding an open Pokeball in one hand, but her Pokemon weren't nearby. That's how I figured it out. You've heard about it, haven't you? All those recent mysterious cases of disappearing Pokemon? I gotta say, I love the way Iris is drawn here. Sometimes the artist is a little off with the way they draw certain characters, but Iris is like spot on to the way I think of her. White questions, man, Pignite is still kind of sneezing up a storm. What's going on with Pignite in the background there? White questions, disappearing Pokemon? Berg says, oh, well, there have been several mysterious cases of disappearing Pokemon, while Iris interrupts, saying somebody's kidnapping them. But Berg says, you don't have any proof of that, Iris. While Iris says, you're awfully unperceptive for an artist, Berg. Berg says, that hurts. While White says, please don't fight. Meanwhile, Black brings out his Muna and has it chomp down on his head, much to Iris's shock, who says, whoa, that Muna, it's eating him. But Berg stops her from interfering, saying, don't worry, Iris, that's just his way of figuring things out. As Black thinks to himself, I'll find the guilty parties. I'll figure out who attacked Bianca and where her Pokemon are. My mind has to go totally blank. White noise turns to Black. Totally black. And as the information processes, Black pulls off the Muna, saying, Berg, this gym smells really strongly of honey, right? Berg says, correct. You detect the scent of my art installation. Our noses can't distinguish any less obvious scents because the honey smell overwhelmed them, but oh no, Black says this. Our noses can't distinguish any less obvious sense because the honey smell overwhelms them, but Pig Knight has a better sense of smell, as Pig Knight is still sneezing up a storm. Black says, did you notice? My Pig Knight started sneezing the second they brought Bianca in here. Berg observes, saying, maybe Pig Knight caught a cold. Black says, no, that's not it. When Tep has a cold, it snorts black smoke out of its nose, not fire. Tep's always been like that. Berg says, ah, I see, and now it's sneezing out fire. Black says, right, but why is it sneezing if it doesn't have a cold? I think Pig Knight's reacting to the smell of that dust on Bianca. Well, can you follow the trail of whatever it is that's making you sneeze? Pig Knight starts sniffing about. As Black says, do you think that trail will... Oh, I think Berg is saying, do you think that trail will lead us to whoever attacked your friend and kidnapped the Pokemon? Pig Knight seems to have caught a scent as it gestures for Black to follow. As Black, Berg, Iris, and White make their way out, with White giving a few bows to the crowd of people watching them, they make their way down the street to a random building. Black looks up saying, what? In the building right across from the gym? It's locked. Berg says, wait, let me do it. He brings out Dweeble, who just takes out the door like a boss. White is aghast, saying, are you sure about this? What if you're wrong? Black says, I'm not. And, there's some kind of sound or smell in the air? Iris goes, huh? Berg says, I see, I think you're right. And they start sneezing. White says, look, I see dust, some kind of spore maybe, floating all around us. Well, Black says, be careful. This must be the stuff that made Bianca fall asleep, as they see there in the shadows Among Us, holding the Litwick. Iris says, it's the mushroom Pokemon Among Us. I love saying that name. Among Us. Iris says, that Litwick is looking at Bianca and crying. That must be her kidnapped Pokemon. As Litwick is flailing in Among Us's arms, Among Us breathes out a flood of spores that everyone just barely manages to dodge out of the way of, going out through the entrance. Black says to Pig Knight, don't hesitate, do it! And Pig Knight, very nimble for its size, manages to cartwheel in, springing up above Among Us and just slamming it right in the head. Dang! The impact. Iris says, wow. Berg says, it was already fast, but now it's powerful too. Black and Pig Knight look around. Black saying, Among Us's trainer, where are you? Show yourself. But Pig Knight gestures to the skylight above. Black says, above? Let's go, as he brings out Braviary. Braviary picks up Black with his talons, while Iris and Berg ride on its back, while Pig Knight bounds up the building with White. My god. Oh god, only for them to encounter another of the 7 sages. So this must be in the game too. Okay. Oh, because Bianca had a Munna in the game that was kidnapped instead of Litwick. Okay, that's what it is. I did see that Bianca had a Munna, interestingly enough. Okay, which sage are you? Let's see, this is Bronius. Oh, he's into My Little Pony, I see. Bronius says, oh, you found us. The plasma grunts say, have no fear, Master Bronius. Of the 7 sages, we will dispose of this threat. Bronius says, you'll never defeat him. Black calls out, hey, you guys again. Bronius tells him, we are Team Plasma. Our mission is to liberate Pokemon from the mindless public. We plan to create a stronghold dedicated to the liberation of Pokemon right next to a Pokemon Rim, the root of the human evil that deprives Pokemon of their freedom. Everything was going according to plan until you, fool. And he points to the grunt who took the Litwick. He says, you left a trail behind you. You ruined this mission and lost an opportunity for us to save Pokemon. The grunt falls to his knees, while Black calls out, hey you! What good does it do to free Pokemon with dirty tricks like this? Bronius calls out, I'm not sure you have the brains to fully comprehend this, but throughout the ages, heroes have been misunderstood. The legend behind the founding of Unova is a good example of that. We shall bring back the hero and the Black Lightning Bolt to unite the minds of the people of Unova as one. Is that something your feeble mind can grasp? And now, farewell. And just like the last sage, they disappear in a puff of smoke. The narration then says, after the departure of Team Plasma, all the missing Pokemon were found in their stronghold. return to their trainers thanks to the efforts of Black and the other. We then pick up with Black sitting on a park bench with Pig Knight as he looks over the BW agency schedule for Gigi and Tep. He says, "We did good, I think." He looks over the schedule and says, "But now you have so much work scheduled for a pair of male and female Tepig, we'll have to cancel it all." Only for White to come up calling out to Black. Black says yes, and White grabs him by the collar saying, "What the heck were you thinking letting your Pokemon evolve? Didn't you realize you have responsibilities as the manager of Pokemon talent, huh? Do you have any idea how many problems you made for me? How much work has to go down the drain, huh? Do you?" A little Pig Knight cowering in the corner. Oh, man. But White lets him go, saying, "Just kidding. I'd never say things like that." Yeah, I kind of figured, honestly. We kept building it up. I'm like, oh, there's definitely a punchline coming here. She shows off a little poster of the strong Pig Knight and the little Gigi who's cuddling up to him. He says, "Look, I figured out a new way to market their talents, and I've already found a job for them." Of course, she always finds a way to turn it around. And this girl is good. It's scary that she's this good at her age she's at. Black says, "What? Really?" White says, "Yep, we got 3 film appointments. 3 today already. Come on, let's go." Black says, "I'm so glad, Knight." They're both about to cry. But, oh, yeah, Knight. White questions, "Knight, you changed Tep's name?" Black says, "Yep, Tep is Knight. Now that it's a Pig Knight, it'd be weird using the nickname Tep if it isn't a Tepig anymore, right?" White questions, "Is that how it works?" Which is funny because Tepig was so intent on having the name as it was, but I guess it just likes being named in the moment. Oh, meanwhile, cut over. Wait, did Bianca ever wake up? Hold on, I don't know. Was she still at the gym? Huh. Well, cut to Chirin. Oh, I guess he's on a call on his, cross transceiver, saying, "Really, thanks for letting me know. I'll drop by the hospital right away." Hospital? Oh, so she was hurt. Sharon tells us Snivy, "Good news, Bianca isn't hurt bag." Is that Pete of his? Oh yeah, I guess it is. Interesting. Sharon sighs, saying, "Who would have thought someone would kidnap her Pokemon? I shouldn't have let her go out on her own. I'd better hurry over and see her. Come on, let's go." Only for them to be stopped by a scientist? He says, "You there? Yeah, you look like the observant type. I mean, got it in one." Sharon says, "Huh?" The scientist says, "Great, I hereby appoint you to the post of passerby statistician." Sharon says, "Sorry, I can't. I have to." The scientist says, "You have to help us with this survey right away." Sharon says, "But I'm in a hurry." The scientist says, "First, tell us what's your favorite hobby." "What's your favorite hobby?" Sharon says, "What? Huh? The scientist says, I see. Very interesting." "Oh, what?" "Oh." Sharon Snivy spots another Snivy who seems to be glaring at him. As Sharon Snivy waves, the other Snivy keeps glaring. And I think the Zorua from before approaches the Snivy and tells it to come on. And they both take their leave. Sharon says to Snivy, "Oh, I'm sorry. I had to answer all these survey questions that became a passerby statistician, and what's wrong?" Snivy points to the other one, saying, "Oh, Snivy just like you. With a little kid. That Snivy must belong to that boy." Snivy's shocked, and as Snivy turns, he sees the Zorua transformed into a little boy with the Snivy. As Sharon says, "Come on, let's go save Bianca." Now, a bit of a spoiler. I know that N at one point had a Zorua. I don't think it ever evolved, though. Maybe? But, that one-off Snivy moment, I didn't actually know if it was actually going to come into play again. But I guess so. Very interesting. I wonder what it means that we met one of the Swords of Justice already. Was there something to the way it appeared? Why did it do what it did to Black and White? Was it testing them or something? And the Zorua, what was that about? And is it really N Zorua? Or maybe that happens later down the line? And Team Plasma's making some troubling moves. I wonder how N justifies, assaulting other people, because that, something about that, I don't feel like N cares for that too much. I know N deep down is a more friendly person than that, but I wonder what fully changes his mind later down the line. You know, poor Bianca too. Got caught in the crossfires of the goings on. You know, Black's fight with Berg though, that was actually pretty fun. And there was a good enough amount of drama about, you know, whether or not Tep should evolve or not. I'm glad I immediately thought of that, because I'm just like, no, there's gonna be an issue, because these starter Pokemon evolve fast, and how's White gonna respond to that? And sure enough, she did have initial bit of a breakdown, but I'm also glad that the moment it happened, past the point of no return, the gears immediately started turning. I love that about her. She just immediately on the fly, how do I make this work? That is incredible. I've heard tell from Steven over on Patreon that White at some point has to start getting involved in fight, and I'm very interested to see how that goes. What is it that makes her, what's the word I'm looking for? Become a little bit more engaged in how she interacts with a lot of situations. And does she ever like gain a Pokemon team? Does she grow a team? I'm really interested how that develops later down the line. Not to mention, how would she even develop that team? But Black is so capable, so I could see him maybe getting her up to speed. And there's so much potential there. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Oh, also not to mention, we met another one of the 7 sages. So we haven't quite had a confrontation with the Getsis. So 2 sages down, 5 sages to go. Now, what other things will they be up to? But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and hope to see you later. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.